In the dim light of the attic, shadows danced as I, Sarah, sifted through forgotten relics left behind by previous owners. The creaky wooden floor beneath my feet added an eerie soundtrack to my exploration. My newly purchased home held secrets within its walls, and I was eager to uncover its history. Amongst the dust-covered boxes and old furniture, I stumbled upon a tattered, yellowed envelope. Curiosity sparked. I opened it carefully, revealing a handwritten letter inside. The handwriting was neat, but old, as if the writer had taken great care in crafting each word. Little did I know, reading that letter would set in motion a chain of eerie events that would forever change my life. The letter was dated decades ago, addressed to an Elizabeth Turner. As I began reading, the words painted a haunting tale of a house very much like mine, and the misfortune that befell its occupants. The writer recounted chilling experiences of unexplained noises, doors slamming shut on their own, and a constant feeling of being watched. The letter reached its climax as it described a presence, an ominous entity that whispered malevolent threats into the ears of the unfortunate residents. As I read those ominous lines, a sudden draft swept through the attic, making the old wooden boards creak and moan. I glanced around, feeling an uneasy chill crawl down my spine. My eyes went back to the letter, and the words seemed to blur and twist, as if the ink itself were alive, writhing on the page. I blinked, convinced that it was just my imagination. I continued reading, the story taking a darker turn. The writer mentioned how the entity singled out Elizabeth Turner, the intended recipient of this letter, and how it tormented her mercilessly until she was driven to madness. I shuddered, feeling a strange connection with this Elizabeth. How could a simple letter evoke such a sense of foreboding? As if in response to my thoughts, a loud thud echoed through the attic. Startled, I looked around, but saw nothing amiss. Heart pounding, I turned back to the letter, desperate to finish it and put it away. But then, the words on the page seemed to shift and rearrange, forming a message that froze my blood. "It's not over? You're next." A sharp gust of wind blew through the attic, extinguishing the lone candle I had brought with me, plunging the space into darkness. Panic seized me, and I fumbled for my phone, frantically trying to turn on the flashlight. In the dim glow, I could make out a faint figure at the far end of the attic. It was a silhouette, swaying ominously. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but fear held me in place. I forced myself to move forward, my footsteps echoing in the vast, oppressive space. As I got closer, I realized it was an old rocking chair, moving back and forth on its own. A cold breeze whispered through the attic, and I felt a presence, an invisible gaze, fixated on me. The words from the letter echoed in my mind. "You're next." I gasped, my breath caught in my throat. Just then, the rocking chair ceased its movement abruptly, as if something invisible had sat down. A bone-chilling whisper echoed through the air, chilling me to the core. "Leave," it hissed, the voice dripping with malice. Fear gave way to determination, and I turned to escape the attic. But the door slammed shut with a deafening bang, trapping me in the darkness. Panic surged, and I pounded on the door, screaming for help. Suddenly, an ethereal figure materialized before me, a woman with hollow eyes and a twisted smile. She raised a bony finger, pointing towards an old trunk in the corner. With trembling hands, I opened the trunk and found a diary, Elizabeth Turner's diary. The entries recounted her torment, her growing dread, and her desperate attempts to escape the clutches of the malevolent entity. The last entry was addressed to her unborn child, urging them to flee and never return. In that heart-stopping moment, I realized the truth, the chilling twist in this horrific tale. Elizabeth Turner was my grandmother. My family had kept the truth hidden, shielding me from the horrifying history of our own bloodline. The entity had returned, seeking retribution across generations. The connection was chilling. Agatha Blackwood had been Elizabeth Turner's neighbor, and their families had a tumultuous history. It seemed the curse had chosen our bloodline as its target. Determined to break the curse and save my family, I embarked on a perilous journey to unravel Agatha's story. The trail led me to an old, dilapidated cottage at the edge of the woods. As I stood before it, the air turned cold, and an uneasy feeling settled in my gut. The cottage was shrouded in darkness, the moon casting eerie shadows on the decaying walls. Every step I took felt heavy, as if the very ground resisted my presence. Pushing open the creaky door, I stepped into the forgotten abode. Inside, the air was thick with an acrid scent, a mixture of dampness and decay. My flashlights revealed walls covered in symbols and runes. Books with arcane inscriptions lay scattered, and in the corner I found an old, weathered grimoire. It was Agatha's book of spells and rituals. As I flipped through its pages, I discovered a ritual to break the curse. It required a sacrifice, a willing offering to appease Agatha's vengeful spirit. The sacrifice had to be someone with a deep connection to the cursed bloodline. The weight of the decision pressed heavily on my shoulders. The curse had already claimed so much from my family, and I couldn't allow it to continue its reign of terror. I knew what had to be done. Returning to my family, who were blissfully unaware of the horrors that lurked in our past, I explained the situation and the grim choice we faced. Tears welled in my mother's eyes as she hugged me tightly, understanding the burden I carried. We made the painful decision together. I would be the sacrifice, offering myself to break the curse that had tormented us for generations. I would willingly face the malevolent entity and Agatha Blackwood to end this nightmare once and for all. As the ritual reached its peak, and I prepared to offer myself as the sacrifice to break the curse, a sudden change rippled through the attic. The air crackled with an unexpected energy, and the symbols on the walls seemed to writhe and change. In that climactic moment, a soft, familiar voice filled the air, the voice of my beloved grandmother, Elizabeth Turner. Her spectral figure materialized before me, radiating a warm and calming light. My family looked on in astonishment and hope. "Sarah," she whispered, her voice a gentle breeze. "You don't have to do this. The ritual was a trap, a malevolent enigma meant to ensnare your soul for all eternity. The true strength lies in breaking free from its grasp." Tears welled up in my eyes as relief washed over me. My grandmother had saved me from the clutches of the evil entity, and I realized that the power to break the curse was not in sacrificing myself, but in resisting the darkness, in choosing hope over fear. With newfound determination, fueled by the love and presence of my grandmother, we recited a counter-incantation to reverse the effects of the ritual. The attic quaked with the clashing energies, but guided by Elizabeth's spirit, we prevailed. A blinding light filled the space, dispelling the malevolent presence once and for all. When we regained our sight, the attic was cleansed, devoid of the eerie symbols and shadows. The curse had been shattered, and a sense of peace settled upon us. Elizabeth smiled, her form glowing with a radiant warmth. "I am proud of you, Sarah," she whispered. "You have broken the chains of our family's curse and embraced the light. Remember, love and unity can conquer even the darkest enigmas." With those words of encouragement, her spirit slowly faded, leaving a lingering sense of hope and love. My family and I embraced, grateful for our survival and newfound closeness. In the days that followed, our lives flourished. The house, once a place of fear, became a home filled with love and joy. The shadows of the past no longer held us captive. The enigma that had plagued us for generations was finally unraveled, replaced by a brighter future. And though the scars of that eerie night remained, they served as a reminder that even in the face of the most daunting enigmas, the power of family, love, and courage would always prevail.